All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about something fascinating today. Why is it that some of the sharpest, most analytical people you know, and maybe that's you, have such a hard time just taking advice? If you've ever felt that little voice in your head pushing back on a helpful suggestion, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to unpack the logic behind that feeling. You know the feeling, right? Someone you really trust, maybe even an expert in their field, gives you what seems like perfectly good advice. But instead of feeling relieved, your brain just kicks into gear. It starts asking questions. You're not looking for someone to tell you it's okay, you're looking for the cold, hard logic behind it.
So let's start with that exact reaction, that "but why" feeling. It's this deep-seated instinct to not just accept what you're told, but to pull it apart, deconstruct it, and really understand it from the ground up.
And here's the most important thing to get right away. This isn't a character flaw. Seriously, you're not trying to be stubborn or difficult. What you're actually feeling is a very real conflict happening inside your own head. It's a clash between two totally different ways of processing information.
And that clash, well, it brings us right to the heart of the issue, this constant battle between emotional acceptance and logical analysis. This is exactly the spot where most advice just gets lost in translation.
So think about it like this. On one side, you've got the emotional approach. This is how most advice is actually given. It's based on trust and reassurance. Hey, just trust me on this, it's going to work out. But if your brain is wired more like the other side, you're not really listening for reassurance. You're listening for proof, for data, for a logical argument that actually holds up.
So what is actually going on in there that causes this? Well, there's a name for it. It all comes down to something called your internal reasoner.
Yeah, it turns out researchers have found a really clear pattern here. People who have a high cognitive ability, folks who are naturally analytical thinkers, they tend to default to their own internal logic. So instead of just taking someone's word for it, their brain is basically hardwired to build the case for itself.
And this really is the core of what internal reasoning means. It's not just about being skeptical. No, it's an active, constructive process. It's like your mind is a builder that needs to check the blueprints, test the foundation, and put all the pieces together itself before it can truly believe the structure is sound. Just hearing "the boss says so" or "trust me," well, that's just not enough material to build with. Now, this way of thinking doesn't just happen in your head, right? It spills out into the real world, and honestly, it can lead to some really frustrating miscommunications. I mean, come on, have you ever heard this? Or maybe felt it from someone who's trying to help you? This one sentence is the perfect example of that friction point. The person giving the advice is offering you trust, an emotional thing, but you're asking for data, which to them can feel like you're rejecting that trust entirely. And that's the huge misunderstanding, isn't it? What feels to you like a totally genuine attempt to understand the why, to really get it, can come across to someone else like you're being dismissive or difficult. You're just trying to engage with the idea in the only way your brain knows how, but from the outside it can look like you're pushing them and their help away. Okay, I know this might all sound a little bit negative, like it's a problem. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Let's try to reframe this whole thing. What if this instinct to question isn't a bug to be fixed, but a strength to be understood? Because at the end of the day, this need you have to analyze, to question, to build a logical case from scratch, that's not a bug. It is absolutely a feature of your mental operating system. It's the very thing that helps you solve incredibly complex problems, to innovate, and to avoid falling for flimsy arguments. It's what makes your mind so powerful. So, I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Once you really get the logic behind your own resistance, you can start to see it in a whole new light. So, is that constant "but why" really a barrier holding you back? Or is it the very engine that drives you, maybe even your greatest cognitive strength?